Check test 1 2 1 2. That's good. Check test 1 2. Alrighty. Good evening. Good evening. I'll be getting started here in just a minute. I always like to wait just a bit for folks to get in. Usually takes a few minutes for people to get connected. But good evening. Shout out to the Hope Bus from Niagara on the Lake Ontario. You know, I had a friend of mine that I used to work with. He's a really brilliant engineer, electrical engineer, that's living up there right on near Niagara Falls on the Canadian side. So I see him posting stuff on Instagram all the time. John, hello. Yes, you asked a question, and I think we'll be able to address that a little bit. I also have a really nice letter from a gal, uh, Catherine, excuse me, Crystal Fight. And we'll be talking about that first this evening, but we'll be chilling out here for just a minute while we wait for some more folks to come in. Brian Feeney, yes, I can probably at least get you started looking in the right place. Welcome. For those of you that are regular attendees, be sure and drop a note over in the chat window to let me know where you're watching from tonight. Always appreciate that. It's fun because we get people watching from really all over the world. And then the replay, I get people watching from various places as well. So, Two Feathers is on the road in Pendleton, Oregon. Pendleton's a great town. Love it there. So, yeah, that's it. Letha Heckford is in Louisiana. Hello, Letha. Awesome to have you aboard. I've never really spent a lot of time in Louisiana. Been in New Orleans a couple times, New Orleans a couple of times, and but that's really it. I haven't had a chance to spend a lot of time in Louisiana, but sure is a beautiful state. I'm actually in Arkansas still, and those of you that watch the stream, you know, you'll recognize the background. It's been the background I've had for the last 7 weeks tonight, because I've been here for 7 weeks since my dad fell and broke his hip. He's doing well, progressing nicely. Looks like he may be able to come home and be independent. The PT folks, I spoke to them, and they were very encouraging. Said he was doing great. So he's been walking a lot, getting his strength back, and so I'm encouraged that hopefully that'll work out for him. Otherwise, he'll have to come live with me. I mean, I've already made plans for that. That's why I quit full time in last year and came on the road, or got off the road, I should say. We got okay, John. So I just caught you up there. Brian's up in Ontario, Canada. Great to have you on, Brian. Castle Rock, Washington. Hi, Nancy Andrews. From Houston, Texas, Mr. Robert Black. Yeah, I spent a fair amount of time in Houston. Food porn chef's in. Okay, that's probably TMI, food chef, but okay. Um, yeah, thanks, Timothy. Great to have you in tonight. Letha is 20 minutes from the Arkansas line, so you're down there in the Delta. I'm actually about 30 minutes west of Harrison, so I'm clear up in northwest Arkansas. Bill Furness, new to RVing. Excellent. This is this channel. This is the program for you, Bill. You can ask any questions. It is a safe zone. There are no dumb questions, only dumb answers. Food porn chef, you're still in Dugway, huh? Man, you're crazy for him. But I guess it's cooled off a little bit. It's only 85 in Pocatello, where I am normally at. Well, I don't know. What is normal? Define normal, and then we'll be able to get started. Joe Menthy, I hope I'm not brutalizing your name too much. I will ask you, I will get to your question in a minute, and then I have a really nice letter from, let's see, from Crystal Fight. I think I'll start, I'll make up my mind this as soon as I make up my mind. Let's go up here and let's chat about Brian Feeney's question. He says, hi, TR, hope all is well. I have a 96 Fleetwood American Dream. The front entry step was working. Now just the motor runs constantly. Step doesn't move in or out. Any suggestions? Yes, I think probably what you've got going on is in those steps, there's sort of a cam looking arm that sits up underneath the step and it pulls the steps in and out. And that sounds like it's either come loose or broken. So basically, all you'll need to do is just climb underneath. Well, first off, just see if you can pull the steps in and out by hand. If you can, then that tells me that mechanism is busted. And then you might pull that steps out, crawl underneath there, and look up and see what you can see, and see if there's any broken parts or if there's bolts missing or anything like that that you can repair. That would be your next step. In a 96 Fleetwood, you're probably going to have a hard time finding parts. In that case, I recommend Cola RV. No affiliate, but they're huge. And they're actually just to the north of me, about 60 miles up in what would be southwest Missouri. That's Cola, Colaw RV. They've got a huge junkyard up there, and they'll pull the part and send it to you. That, pardon me. It always takes me a minute to get my voice wound up because I don't talk a lot during the day. But I hope that gives you some ideas on where to look to solve that. Uh, Aaron, our moderator, isn't in tonight. He had to work, so that's okay. The moderator's just in to stop the nut jobs, but I think I've been lucky that I've always said if you give out good energy, you get good energy back, and so I haven't had a lot of trouble with spammers. Randy Waller is in. Great, busy work for the past few weeks, I'll bet, Randy. And I'm great. I'm glad to have you in, and looking forward to hearing an update about your property. Chuck C. from Yonkers, New York. Great. Glad to have you here, Chuck. Catching up on the comments here. Oh, Jason, you're so kind. You're so kind, Jason. Thank you so much for your super chat. Okay, so Joe, and then I see Crystal has checked in, and then we'll go to hers. So Joe says, I replaced our water pump in the RV. It froze several times this past winter in New Mexico. Now, when it's on, it cycles on and off every 2 to 3 seconds. What's going on? Thanks. You got a leak. You got a leak somewhere in one of the lines, and you need to track that down because water damage can be pure hell on your RV. If you're in New Mexico, it says, okay, so if you're in New Mexico, you don't have to worry too much about the humidity. But yeah, those water leaks can do a lot of damage. So my guess is that you probably have a water leak. Or perhaps there's usually a check valve somewhere in that line, and oftentimes it's in the pump itself, but you might want to check it. But check the check valve. Hey, that's a double negative almost. But what that check valve does is it moves in one direction. And so when the pump pumps, it puts pressure into the line. And that way the pressure doesn't drain off. And if that pressure's draining off, it's signaling that pump to start again. So, Joe, I'm assuming it runs for 2 or 3 seconds, and then it shuts off for 2 or 3 seconds. So if that's the case, then there's a leak somewhere. And you're going to want to track that down pretty fast. Crystal's tuning in from Kentucky. You're very welcome, Crystal. Thanks for your email. Okay, so I'm gonna stop right there and make myself a note that I'm at Nancy Andrews. We'll get to you next. But I wanted to share this email I got from Crystal. I'll jump around a little bit, but I think it was really it's a great email, and thank you, Crystal, for the great questions. She says, "Good evening, sir. Good evening to you, sir, and I hope this email finds you well. I came across your website from a camper group on Facebook. And that led me to your YouTube channel. Last year, I purchased a used travel trailer from friends after they upgraded to a larger size. Of course, I got the family and friends discount, which was really helpful, and I knew what I was purchasing as I camped with them quite often in the unit that I bought from them. So that's always a plus. If you've had experience living in it, that's a great start for sure. So as the world affects us all, the pandemic of 2020 put a damper on my camping education. So this summer, I've been spending my time learning about my camper, remodeling my camper, and loving my camper. I find that people that tend to enjoy this lifestyle are gypsy types. I guess I'm a bit of a gypsy. And I do she says, I consider myself a bit of a gypsy, so I'm working my way into camping full time. As I plan financially for this venture and get the camper ready for the venture, I have questions that come up, and while I'm a big research and development type person, I find that many of the educational blogs or reviews that I read tend to be linked with endorsement money. Yeah, that's a huge problem. That's a really big problem. There are several channels that I've, I've really fought hard to not leave comments on that do a video on something that is absolutely superfluous to RVing. Doesn't really, you don't really need this, right? In fact, it's not even really, I don't know, but the bulk of it is that they've got some kind of affiliate, or they're just trying to hawk something they want you to buy on Amazon from them through their store. And so their advice may be tainted. First things first, I would never do that. I am very selective with my reviews. And when I do my reviews, I make sure that you know it is a review. Here's the straight poop on from me to you, Crystal, about this endeavor that you're getting yourself set up to do. I'll go on here for just a bit. There's absolutely nothing okay, as we all have to leave a living. But she says she's looking into solar for her camper, and she values my opinion greatly, so she thought I'd ask me if I have any advice or suggestions about solar use in campers. She says I'm a 38-year-old woman who can rough it if needed, but would prefer to be able to use my refrigerator, water pump, lights, and of course the air conditioner. Her trailer is a Wildwood X Light made by Forest River. It's a 2010, 18BH, which she says stands for 18-foot bunkhouse. She goes on to say, I do not cook in my camper, so I rely on propane for heat and outdoor cooking. But for the other amenities I spoke of, I need electric. Yeah. I currently use a generator that I bought for $300 at Menards, and I believe it provides 1250 watts, and as long as it's filled with gasoline, it runs everything I need quite well. However, it tends to be heavy, and it takes up a lot of space when traveling, not to mention it's loud. Yes, those inexpensive generators are loud. The Champions from Harbor Freight, all that. You'll have to... Can you grab the front door, Bruce? Thank you. Anyway, so now that we've got the whole house exploding here because somebody's at the door, you'll have to excuse me for just a minute. Okay, I don't even know what's going on. It must have been somebody leaving something on the doorstep. Okay, sorry about that. Sorry about the distractions. That's what you get when you do lives. Boondocking is very appealing to me, and if I could boondock and use solar, I'm more than willing to spend the money. Who is it, Bruce? Who? Oh, okay. So she says, I'd like to thank you for this education you've been able to provide me, even though you don't know me. That's fine. That's what we're all about here. So before I read on, I'm going to go ahead and let's chat about the basic premise of full-timing and what you need to do to be prepared to do a full-time gig. And then we'll talk a little bit about the solar. The first thing I want to say about the full-timing gig is have yourself a nice financial reserve. Okay? You need to sit down and figure out approximately what you're going to spend per month. That's going to include like all your parking. You say you're going to boondock, so your parking will be free in most cases. Sorry, I'm really plugged up tonight. I think it's my allergies are blowing up. Anyway, the long and short of it is I have at least 2 to 3 months of reserve of your monthly expenses, which you expect to spend monthly, in the bank waiting in case something comes up. The second thing is make sure that you have a good roadside assistance plan, absolutely critical. Okay. The third thing is make sure you take a light toolkit, the basic tools, screwdrivers, maybe an adjustable wrench, what we call a crescent wrench, definitely a hammer, those sorts of things, so that you've got some tools to do the work that you can do yourself and they're on hand. Um, you don't have to have a real extensive toolkit, but it's good to have just your basic hand tools. All right. And then think about weight, because when we decide to go full timing, the tendency is to get rid of everything or try to get rid of as much as possible and sort of live a minimalist life. Okay. Well, you're probably going to want to keep stuff in storage because you're going to have mementos and things like that that you don't want to take on the road with you because it's just stuff happens. Okay. And there's theft, there's fire, there's all kinds of things, there's accidents, and I'm not trying to discourage anybody, but I'm just trying to give you what the truth is here. That stuff like that happens, and you don't want your mom's crystal in your RV or in your trailer. Okay, so you want to be thinking about what you want to take with you, and think about weight, because the more stuff you put in that travel trailer or your RV of any type, the more it costs to go down the road because it takes more fuel. Well, there's a number of things and issues around that that you want to keep in mind. So, as far as basic full timing, I think that's probably at least 3 months of reserve, okay, in case something comes up. More if you can swing it. More is always better. The second thing is have some kind of an idea about how you're going to fund this going on ongoing. So maybe you're a work from home person. You can work from the road, no problem. Tons of people do it. So don't let that be a deterrent to you. There's ways to make that work. Now let's talk about solar. Solar and boondocking go hand in hand. But to be successful as a boondocker on solar with a smaller rig like yours, you have an 18-foot travel trailer. That limits the amount of solar you're going to be able to get on the roof. Okay, it's not a huge problem because you can get foldable, collapsible solar panels that you can set up outside of your rig and supplement the solar that you're getting off the roof. Okay, so keep that in mind. But I think you need to be thinking about replacing your batteries with lithiums. Okay, the reason I say that is that lithium batteries have double the capacity of a lead acid battery. And when you're boondocking, collecting and holding on to enough power to run the fridge and those sorts of things for 24 hours, actually, you want to have a system built that will give you 2 days of power, assuming that you have a full day without solar. You need to be able to go about 48 hours. Now, you have a generator, so you can always supplement and charge your batteries off the generator. But so 2 days is a good rule of thumb as far as a solar when you're thinking about budgeting for solar. You mentioned air conditioning, and I got to tell you right up front, I don't think it's practical to do air conditioning off solar, especially in a rig your size. You'd never be able to get enough solar panels to collect enough energy to make it worthwhile. And if you did that, you're going to be into it for a lot of money. Okay. So the bottom line is, and we've talked about this in previous live chats, the second and third live chats, particularly, if you go clear back into April when I first started doing these, uh, we talked a lot about solar and running AC off of solar. I don't think it's practical. Now, all the rest of the things you mentioned, absolutely, fridge, TVs, microwaves, all that stuff. Um, the solar setup I did on my rig, now I have a 40-foot Class A, so I have a lot more real estate that I could put solar panels on, but I had 1,860 watts of solar, and I had 4 lithium-ion batteries, 100 amp hour batteries. And in 2019, I boondocked 114 days. That was 114 days dry camping. I was either at, 14-day BLM, or I was at a national forest campground with no utilities, no hookups, those sorts of things. And in those 114 days, I had 9 hours of generator time. We had 2 days of rain in the clouds, so I wasn't getting enough solar. But I ran all of my electrical, everything, fridge, uh, water heat. Well, I don't have electric water heater, but all of my utility stuff, my TVs. I had a workstation computer that's a power hog that I ran most of the time for my video editing and stuff like that. So, in a rig like yours, I would recommend that you get something around a 2,000 watt inverter, 2 lithium-ion batteries, and you're probably going to want around 800 to 1,000 watts of solar if you can swing it. My guess is you could probably get maybe 5 to 600 on the roof. Excuse me, 5 to 600 on the roof, which means you need to pick up another couple hundred from ground-based panels. And as a single person boondocking, you're probably going to be in decent shape. Now, a caveat to that is that's thinking around midsummer when you got really high sun in the sky. When you start to get closer to winter and you're in this latitude, the sun angle gets really low, right? So you're not getting as much sun directly on the roof or on your solar panels. That's where the portable panel comes in handy because you can point it at it, but it changes your solar budget considerably. And I noticed that really in getting into late October into November, when I was still dry camping, I was down in Nevada at it's that Overton Wildlife Management Area, just on the north side of Lake Mead. And it was late October, and I noticed that I was getting on the edge of being able to pull in enough solar to run all of my electrical equipment. So, hopefully, that gets you a decent start thinking about what you should do. Let me go back and just really quickly scan and see if there's anything else that I thought. Oh, she says so. She spent the summer remodeling camper, performing maintenance and stuff. I'm doing it with my 72-year-old father who spent his life in the Marine Corps doing electric, plumbing, home renovations, and basically jack of all trades. So when she came across my page, she was impressed because she knew that I'd grown up with some common sense. My dad was very similar. We did a lot of stuff, how-to stuff, mostly because we lived on a budget. So, Crystal, I hope that gets you started down the road to thinking about what you need to do to boondock and how you could deal with solar. The bottom line is definitely practical to do. Forget about the AC, all right? You might think about one of those, since that's a small rig, an 18-footer, these little evaporative tabletop fans seem to be pretty efficient. And so you might get by with one of those when it's really super hot. But if you're going to be full-time boondocking, go north in the summer and south in the winter. That's what I did. And a lot of the places I was boondocking in the summer, I didn't need AC. I do admit, though, that I did spend 1 week up in the Birch Creek area, and it was 100 degrees during that week, and it was really hot, so I broke down and ran the generator a couple of hours on a couple of different days just to cool the rig off because it was so cotton picking hot. So, Crystal, I hope that gets you going. Nancy Andrews, okay. She says, we did the treatment 2 times, and so far it's like night and day. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it, Nancy? It works beautifully. Jason, thanks again, brother. Thank you, Fighting. Let's see. Whoops, I skipped down quite a bit. Oh, I have quite a few super chats in there. I need to go catch up on those. Fighting in flip-flops. Glad my dad's better watching in Florida. Great. Thanks for watching Fighting in flip-flops. Food Porn Chef. Question. I have truck only overheating when going uphill. Have you heard of going down to a smaller thermostat like 185 to 165? You heard of this? Well, yes and no. I wouldn't do that because your engine's designed to run at 185 or 190 degrees. And I suspect that your radiator's full of bugs. So what I would do is go to the car wash and I would blow out the radiator, get on the inside of it, reach down in through the fan and in the shroud, make sure you're not banging the wand from the car wash in there, and spray the heck out of your radiator, forcing it out this way first, okay, from the inside out, because I suspect it's full of bugs and stuff. And then you can turn around and kind of blow it back through the other way once you kind of get it cleaned out. And I would give that a shot. My guess is that's probably what you're running into. I would not put a lower thermostat in there. That's not going to change how hot the rig runs. Well, I mean, it'll change it to 165, but then you're probably going to find that you're not going to be able to maintain 165. It'll probably continue to overheat. Okay, so Brian catching up on his original question. Yes, then I suspect that the mechanism that pulls the step in and out is busted, come loose. Check the nuts, bolts, look for any broken parts, Brian, and that's a good place to um, get started. So I got G. Davis asks, TR, my tank gauges read black and gray, but the drain ports, both 4-inch valves, read wastewater and gray. However, the gray seems to be black drain. Please help my confusion here. Wow. What kind of a rig do you have? G. G. Davis. Because to me, and I guess, yeah, that's weird. They're both 4-inch valves. That's really unusual. Usually the gray tank's usually inch and a half with a 2.5 inch drain valve or a drain line, and then the black lines are typically only 3-inch. So that's really weird. G, where the gray seems to be the black drain. Please help. Yeah, that's. I don't know. I would have to see some pictures of it and know what kind of rig you got there to be able to research that, Mr. G. Davis. I'm happy to help you do that, though. Okay, so let's see. Have I missed anything here? I'm just going to run back real quick. All right. You're very welcome, Brian. Thank you for your comments and watching. Tom Jones asks, do black tank chemicals have a shelf life? Uh, Probably 3 to 5 years. I think they would have a pretty lengthy shelf life. It depends on what you're talking about. The TST and those like bottles of TST and stuff like that that are hermetically sealed, yeah, I would say 5 years wouldn't be unusual that you could keep one of those and use it. Yeah, Joe, that's a good thing to do is check your hose clamps and stuff. Look for a leak. Nancy Andrews says no bad smell, but still can't read the gauges. Okay, so that's probably because there's a bunch of crud that's been accumulated on the walls of the tank, and it's going to take some time and patience to get that soaked and get it off of there so that your level indicators start working correctly. Um, you can do a soak on those. I don't remember, Nancy. Are you full timing that or are you a part timer? You use it during the weekends. Great to have you in here, Lola. Thank you for coming. Oh, okay. Joe lives in Minnesota and wintered in New Mexico. Yeah, totally get it. Idaho and Arizona. Jason, no, shouldn't. If you're hooked up to city water, then all the pressurization in your system should be coming from city water, so your water pump should have nothing to do. John Carter, thank you very much for the super chat. That is very kind of you. Oh, Joe says water pump only when not hooked up to city water. Joe, okay. Joe was having a cycling pump. Um, okay, so there's another check valve, but I would think you would be seeing water coming out of this one. Where the city water connects to your RV, it's usually like a brass fitting or something like that where you hook the hose to it. But sitting behind that is a check valve, a one-way check valve. So when the water hits it, it opens it up and pushes water into the system. If that check valve has failed, remember that system is all one, right? So if that check valve is leaking, you could have a leak there, which would allow the pressure to drain down in the system. But I would think you would be seeing that leak out unless you just have a water hose attached and you're just not seeing the water. But yeah, it definitely sounds like you have a leak somewhere, especially if you've changed the pump, and especially since you reported that you were frozen a couple times. I definitely suspect a leak, particularly if the pump's cycling. Yeah. Uh, on city water, of course, the pump wouldn't cycle because there's pressure in the system, but you got to have a leak somewhere, and I would start looking for it right away before you go back to New Mexico for the winter. Thanks for the reminder. If you like what you're seeing, be sure and give me that thumbs up. Those are always greatly appreciated. It helps YouTube rank the video up a little bit, gets more people to see it. Uh, as an affiliate of Amazon, I do get a small commission, but your support of my Amazon store, the links in the description below, is always greatly appreciated. Every little bit it helps. Visit my website at trboland.com. Lots of great content over there. In fact, I just got a bunch of photos I've been taking here in the last couple of days. Then I'm going to start posting a few macro photos and some stuff up that just been killing time. I've got another month here at least before I get back to Idaho. So I'm going to get back over here to Food Porn Chef and say um, thank you for the super chat. Need my email. Oh, okay. Send me the soap pump I had as a kid. I'll tell you what, you can actually send it to me here. I don't remember this. I just got this before I left. You can send it to P.O. Box 8290, P.O. Box 8290, Pocatello, Idaho 83209. If you want to send me snail mail, send me that, whatever you want. Feel free to send it there, and that way it won't be accumulating in my mailbox. They'll just hold it there at the post office, and I can go pick it up. So that's box 8290, Pocatello, Idaho 83209. I'll after this stream, I'll go put it in the description for the video. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Hi, Sue Kelly. Got my ears on. Yep, that's an old CB thing there, huh? Okay, so he says food porn's back talking about his overheat. I meant mountain, not hill. Sorry, only overheat when going up a mountain. My 2013 F-150 going to thermostat before changing radiator. And you do smell coolant after a long drive. Just change hoses. Okay. Uh, yeah, okay. And then he says, have you heard of putting in a smaller thermostat? Yes, and no, no, don't do it. Your engine is built to run at a certain temperature. And so you're only, even if this would make a difference and it won't, the only difference it's going to make is when you're climbing. How much time do you spend climbing versus driving around the rest of the time? So if the thermostat is opening at 165, your engine's going to be running cooler when you're driving normally on the interstate or around town. That's going to be below the optimum temperature for that engine to operate properly. Your fuel mileage will probably decrease. It'll put more wear and tear on the engine. Believe it or not, yes, it will. So you want to run that engine at 190 or whatever the OEM thermostat is, and I would stick with that. I would just clean the radiator. Just go to the car wash, use the wand, and blast out that radiator as best you can. Debbie Caron, hello. Oh, and thank you very much, Mary. That is so kind of you. That super chat is, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you, Mary, for coming back for more wise wisdom. That's funny. Crystal Fight. Okay, she says, thank you so much. You've given me a great deal to think about and to look into, and a great starting point. Really appreciate it. And thanks for all you do. You're very welcome, Crystal. And if you have any other questions, you can come to this live chat. It's always going to be on Tuesday evenings at 7 o'clock Mountain. Or drop me an email. I'm happy to answer your emails, but I thought your email was so great that I thought I'd share it with everybody tonight. Robert Black, 1911. Is it okay to solar charge the battery when plugged into shore power or turn off solar when on power? Yes. Um, Robert, a good example I've mentioned, I have 1800 odd watts of solar on the roof. I never even think about it. Okay. The solar charge controller is going to monitor the voltage of the battery, and if it's low, then it might send a few amps to the battery, but otherwise it's just going to sit there in a float condition because your inverter charger is probably going to be charging the battery faster than your solar. They won't fight, they won't overcharge the battery because the solar charge controller and the inverter both know that, let's say that battery optimal voltage is 13.6 volts. That's its float voltage. And so they'll work together, but my bet is that the inverter charger is going to do the bulk of the charging of the batteries versus your solar panels. So yeah, you no need to worry about that at all. Okay, so here we go. The plot thickens. Now the whole story's coming out, food porn chef. I think I got a leak in my radiator, so I got 2 cans of aluminum in it to stop leaking, which it did. But I know soon we'll have to replace. My truck is 10 years only owner. Yeah, you're probably looking at a radiator replacement. Yeah, sounds like it. Oh, G. Davis has a Forest River 2010. Well, that's really weird. That is really, really weird because um, obviously what he mentioned here. Let me just run back to that comment real quick so I can remember. One read wastewater and gray. So obviously, to me, the wastewater should be your black water. So that should be your, your sewage, and then your gray water ought to be your sinks and your shower. So maybe the lines are just so dirty it comes out black. Have you watched my video on how to maintain your RV's holding tanks? You can check that out on my channel, um, and you might want to maintain those tanks. But yeah, that's really weird. Are you sure they're 4 inches? That's awful big. Jason Mills. Okay. He says, seeing that most of us are traveling across many state lines with different laws, what are the personal protection devices you might travel with? I know, tricky question. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what I traveled with, and I didn't think about state lines too much. Okay. But I did have a handgun, and it was in an accessible place in a thumbnail safe that I couldn't reach from the driver's seat. And that's what I traveled with because occasionally I would stay at truck stops. Occasionally I might overnight in a rest area or a Walmart parking lot. I had more sketchy experiences in Walmart parking lots than I had anywhere else. But I never ever had to get it out in the 9 years I've had my Class A. 10. Yes, it's almost 10. 9 years now. So I never had to get it out, and I never thought about, uh, you know, carry conceal or anything like that. It's just for personal protection. And you know, it wasn't a AR-15 or anything like that. It was just a handgun, 9 millimeter. I suspect because I actually bought it off of a police officer. It was a service weapon for a while, or he used it as a service weapon, but it had a 15 round clip, which I think is probably illegal in some states. But again, that's what I carried, and I didn't even think about it. I, you have to do something bad to get him in to find it in the first place. So that's kind of the way I thought about it. I didn't do anything bad. Tom Newmar, his says our Newmar has two 4 inch drains. Yeah, uh, okay. I'll give you that they could be 4 inch drains. I just think that's awful big for an RV. 3 inch is what mine are in my '04 Dutch Star. Is I have a 2 inch and a 3 inch is what comes into mind. I have a video where I replaced the valves on it. No, actually, I have, excuse me, inch and a half and 3 inch, and a video on my channel where I replaced those holding tank valves. A 27 foot. Okay, gee. So yeah, I'm stumped. I'd have to actually see it. If you wanted to take some pictures and send me some pictures, trbullen@gmail.com. I would take a quick look at it and see if it made any sense to me. But I've not run across that one yet. Food Port Chef. Oh yeah, great news. I had both refrigerator went out and need a circuit board, so we'll do a dinosaur board. Oh, you're there for 2 more weeks. 3 weeks, no fridge. Yeah, that sucks. Especially at Dugway where it's warm as warm. G. Davis, thank you so much for the super chat. And yes, we're all confused at some point. Andrew, hello, buddy. It's nice to have you in. Gosh, long time. Where are you at, my friend? Did you get your solar done, Andrew? Oh, Randy, great. He's going to send me some pictures of the acreage and some preliminary plans for the house. Excellent. Yeah, I'm a snail mail guy too sometimes. Yep, good job. Yes, G. Davis. Okay, Ivan Josie, RV Journey. He says, for our cross country trip, we serviced our RV where they changed the oil from conventional to synthetic. Okay. After 300 plus miles, it started clicking. The RV has been operating well on hills and on I-90. So you mean clicking, the engine's clicking? Like maybe you got to tap it clicking or something like that? I wouldn't think. How many miles is on your RV, Ivan? Um, I wouldn't think just switching over to synthetic would cause that. In fact, synthetic is so much better oil. I think it would prevent a lot of that kind of accumulation of junk that could cause tappets to click and stuff like that. Okay, G. Davis, you're right. Okay, 3 inch, both 3 inches, both identical. Yeah, that's really weird, but yeah, surely one of them is a black tank and one of them's a gray tank. Oh, Steph, hey, great to see me live. Thank you for being here. Awesome. And Andrew, he's in Idaho Falls. I'm in Arkansas, my friend. Yeah, my dad fell and broke his hip, and I've been here since well, 7 weeks tonight. Assuming you're going to be up there till October again, I'll be back. I think 4 to 5 weeks. I should be back. I'd love to get together and maybe have dinner or something like that if COVID's not raging too bad. Yes, I believe that's correct, Tom Downey. The hookups are 4 inch on that, but I believe it's a 3 inch pipe that comes in. Yeah, Chuck. Yeah, well, that would be the ID. Yes, so it's 1.5 inch or 3 inch IDs inside dimensions. Okay, so yeah, probably just dirty tanks. Yeah, go watch my video and treat your tanks with the borax and the Dawn treatment, and take it out for a ride and flush those out. Uh, that could be fun. Yeah, Jason, that might be fun to get together next year. Um, I would be interested. I would be interested in that. We'll keep that on the burner. Ivan Josie says engine is clicking. It has 20K miles. Is it new? Do you have a warranty, engine warranty at all? Um, if not, you might take it in and just have whoever your chassis manufacturer is take a look at it. You know, Spartan. Oh well, you're in a. I think you're. Sounds like you're in a Class C. So whoever it is, GM, or Ford, or whoever your chassis is, Workhorse. Um, I would take it in and get it checked because solving a problem that could blow up or drop a valve now versus after it drops can be an expensive lesson. And there's a video on my channel called the $30,000 Engine Quandary that would give you some firsthand experience around that. Now, of course, I didn't have any clicking or anything, but I did lose an engine, so it's not something you want to have happen. And then there's all kinds of things you can treat, with to get rid of if the tappets are sticking and stuff like that. But yeah, I would have a good qualified mechanic take a quick listen to it and just make sure it's not something bad going wrong. But to me, it's probably just a sticky tappet. That's not that unusual. Okay, so Andrew, great. Good to hear from you. You'll be there till the end of September. Well, I should be home before then. So yeah, I'll reach out and we'll catch up. It'll be great to see you, man. Yeah, Tom, I was thinking the same thing. Uh, to figure out which one's which, just go and fill your black tank full and then pull the handle and that'll tell you which one's which. If you don't have anything in the gray tank or vice versa. But yeah, I think you just need to clean your tanks. Check out my video for information on that. Oh, Larry McBride. Hey, Larry. Great to have you in tonight. I'm still down here being your neighbor. He says, howdy, all. I thought I had my water leaks fixed, but another one has popped up, letting her sit till it cools down some. Yeah, yeah, that can be a pain. You probably fixed one, but you probably had multiple, I'm guessing, Larry. That's too bad. Andrew says the borax is a lifesaver for stinky tank. Yeah, it's magic, isn't it? Sure is. Ivan Josie RV, 2017 purchase from the original owner. Will do. Ram ProMaster chassis. Is it a gasser or a diesel, Ivan? Timothy Tentinger. Um, Great question. Okay, so he says, and welcome to the channel, by the way. You're a new one that hasn't asked that question yet. Why does everyone say residential fridge is so much better than an RV fridge? Wouldn't it be better to be able to run with electric or petro? Am I missing something? Well, no, absolutely. It's better to run with the fridge, to run a fridge that you can run on electric 110 or on propane or petro, as you call it. If you're a part-time RVer. If you're a full-time RVer, the residential fridge is a game changer. Okay, first-hand experience here. I have a video on my channel. In fact, since I've had some spare time, I actually happen to have this footage up on the cloud. I'm re-editing a video from 4 years ago now, one of my very first RV how-to videos of putting my residential fridge in my RV. I'm putting it back together and then making it into one video instead of 3 episodes. But the long and short of it is that the increase in the amount of space that you get, the freezer space is more. You have more freezer space. Like I got an ice maker, and until you get up into really high-end Class A RVs, you're not going to find those kinds of amenities. Um, so that's why a residential fridge is better. They have downfalls though, right? Because if you have a residential fridge, then you have to have 110 all the time. And so you're either going to have some kind of a big battery bank with solar, or you're going to always be on hookups. You're either going to be hooked up in the RV park or somewhere you're going to have to plug in to get electricity. So there's downsides because with a dual fuel electric propane, it runs wherever you are. So there's pluses and minuses for both. I wouldn't say a residential is the perfect solution for everybody, but if you're a full timer, um, I would say the residential fridge is a good investment. In my humble opinion, IMHO. Hope that answered your question, Timothy. Tom Downey, he says we have the trans ECU issue. Don't get them hot. Yeah, they cost $1,000 waiting for a replacement. Yeah, those things are pricey, and yeah, that's a drag. You lose the engine ECU, you're in the same situation. So I'm condolences, Tom. I'm sorry for that because yeah, You know, every time you break down in a big Class A, it's another $1,000 just to get it looked at. Usually, let me check something here, make sure I'm not running out of battery. Oh, we're good. Yeah, don't G Davis. Sometimes we just make this stuff up as we go along, and it just kind of falls into place when some of the crusty old guys like me come up with good ideas and throw them in the channel. So don't feel stupid. Oh, thank you very much, Ivan Josie, for the super chat. That is very kind, very kind. Okay, Timothy says we will be full time December, January, trying to retire, but they won't let me. So remote it is, but I'm going to Cowboy Land. Thanks for all the refridge info. Yeah, you bet. Good luck with that. You'll enjoy being retired in it. It's a lot of fun. I really did enjoy it. Dan Phillips, 12 volt DC. Dan, did we have a question running or am I missing something here? Okay, Dan, 12 volts DC. I must have missed something. If you asked a question, if you re-ask it, then I'll try to catch up. Okay, thanks, Food Porn Chef. I will do that. Oh, okay. Timothy says he's looking at the Lux, currently modified, seeing them September 16th. Gotcha. Oh, Tom, you had a fire in an electrical compartment? Holy, holy, no, no, no. You don't want that. Wow. Let's see here. So Ivan and Josie had a really nice comment in their super chat. Thank you. We use your tank cleansing recommendation and it has worked very well. On the road for 51 days, so far sitting at a BP in South Dakota overnight. There you go. Works. It just works great. I can't, you know, I wish more people would watch it because in the forums that I watch, people still complain about their black tank smelling. And then I see all of these products that they're trying to sell you, this RV digester, this and all this stuff, and you're spending all this damn money when all you need is a $4.50 box of borax and a bottle of Dawn dish soap that might cost you from $2 to $4. That's all you need. You don't need all of this fancy digester crap. It just is ridiculous how they do that. Oh, Andrew lost the ECU in his coach. Sucked 3,500. Yeah, that engine control unit, man. I wouldn't want to lose one of those. That's a huge drag. Well, it looks like and I guess that's the good side of that, Tom, is that you got the chance to upgrade and do all that Victron gear. Um, uh, Tom and Andrew have a lot in common in that Andrew has a very similar system set up to what you got, Tom, with all of the Victron gear. He's got the solar charge controller and the smart computer widget Woody do and all that stuff. And actually, we put his inverter in. There's a video on my channel from last October, I believe it was, when we put Andrew's 3,000 watt inverter in his '04 Dutch Star. he says, Andrew says Victron rocks. Yes, yes, yes. Worked very well. Can't emphasize it enough. Trust me, my wife wouldn't be RVing if it didn't. Yeah, that's good to hear, Ivan. Josie, super to hear. Okay, so questions or comments, throw them over there in the chat window. Super happy to answer any questions or comments. I'll keep going as long as there's questions and comments coming in. But we'll be wrapping her up here pretty soon. Oh, Dan Phillips, he says, sorry about that. Jumped in late on the refrigerator discussion. We have a DC refrigerator compressor, and it has been very impressive once we had the first one replaced under warranty, 10 plus cubic feet. Okay, Dan, yeah. So, and Randy, by the way, thank you very much, Timothy. I'll read your comment in a minute. Randy, if you're still on the chat, kick a note in over there about which fridge you got for your 12 volt fridge, please. Okay, Tom. Yeah, thank God for Firebox in the coach for sure. Two Feathers says I have a 24-foot Class C Winnebago 2008. I hit a rock recently, putting a 4-inch hole on the rear passenger side down below the storage bin, 6 inches from the rear bumper. Yeah, I hit a rock. I hit a rock in mine and damaged the wet bay door. Uh, I was rolling down the interstate and a rock rolled off the mountain and right into the side of my RV and damaged my water door and the fender. There's a little fairing thing that goes over the fender that it scratched. I think I've got most of it fixed. Okay, so Peggy Bloomfield says you offer your Amazon store to order. We are limited to what we order. And are they going to tell you what I ordered? No, I have no idea who orders what. All I see is that a product was ordered, like a box of borax, or there's a fridge repair video on my channel, and there's a little aluminum clip that's $6 that fixes this problem with the Samsung fridges. And so I see that. I don't know who orders what, or I have no idea of that at all. And there is no limit to if as long as you click in through my store, you can go buy anything else on Amazon, and I'll get that very small commission. And let me say this: the stuff on my Amazon lists is stuff I use personally. I don't throw stuff on there that I haven't used or that I won't endorse. Because I want to make sure that it's not a piece of junk. It's really easy to get Chinese crap on Amazon if you're not paying attention, and I have avoided that at all costs. So the stuff that's on my list, primarily for RVing and or my camera gear and stuff like that, I use firsthand, and I wouldn't recommend it if I didn't like it. Um, and the second thing is that the Amazon commission is not a lot. For example, I think I made $134 from Amazon last month. So, it's not a lot, but again, every little bit helps. That helps pay my internet and for the unlimited internet I have on my cell phone, stuff like that. Okay, let's see here. There you go. Food porn's going to the Victron as well. Excellent. Timothy writes, my house is 154 years old. The septic tank is a pain in the ass. Yes, the black tank will be heaven. Ever been armpit deep in a cement tank before? No, I haven't. I have done some pretty nasty jobs, but I have not done that. So that's something I have no firsthand experience with, nor do I want to get in line first to get it. Oh, Two Feathers says she hit a rock. I guess it was a blessing in disguise as it exposed some rot. I had no idea that existed. Fiberglass body. Yeah, that's the thing about fiberglass, right? You get these soft spots and stuff in it, but it's not immediately apparent. Then you lean down there to get something, you put your hand right through it. Ivan and Jesse coming back and say, on this trip we decided to upgrade our electrical system, thinking about Battleborn inverter hybrid, an upgrade from 100 watts to 300. Thoughts? Yeah, that's a good thing. But get all the solar you can get. Get all of the solar panels you can get, because uh, that's going to be your limiting thing in your system is going to be how much solar you collect. And 300 watts is a pretty good start, but yeah, as long as you have a dual fuel fridge, you're not trying to drive your fridge and stuff. 200 watts is a good amount, but yeah, get all the solar panels, all the solar real estate you can get. Yeah, Two Feathers. What to do? Now you're full time in it, right? So that makes it tough. Is the rot exposed or into any of your compartments or containers, or do you risk having other damage because of that hole? Oh, Tom. Okay. Oh, a new one. So did they decide it was bad? Interesting. Tom's been fighting a problem with his Victron stuff falling off his network, off his Bluetooth stuff that he can't read it. Hello, Aaron. Yes, work camper's job is never done. You didn't miss much, but we've had a great discussion tonight. I've really enjoyed the chat we've had. Okay, how do I determine the size of inverter, amount of batteries, and if you have enough solar? A 25 foot, use a CPAP, and like the boondock. Okay, so I go back to my original statement. Get all of the solar panels you can. I would suggest that you start with two lithium ion 100 amp hour batteries. Battleborn, I think you'd mentioned. Those are what I have. Okay. There's others out there, but Battleborn, I think, is, they're setting the stage for that. Keep in mind that you can always add another battery, get all the solar you can get, and then you're probably going to be just fine with a 2,000 watt inverter charger. Uh, a Class C, you're not going to have that much. The CPAP, there should be a label on it that tells you how much electricity it uses. And if you could tell me that, then I could actually help you do the math, and I could tell you, okay, that you're going to need a minimum of two batteries or three or that kind of stuff, because that's going to be your biggest load. You know, so if it uses, I'll use this as an example. Let's say it uses 100 watts and you run it for 8 hours. That's 800 watt hours, and that's zero point 0.8 kilowatt hours. You're probably looking at needing, by the time you convert this back to 12 volt, you're probably looking at needing 50 to 80 amp hours of DC power to run a CPAP overnight. That would be easily researchable, by the way. And I'd be happy to help you with that. If you just want to take a picture, there should be a label on the CPAP, or send me the make and model of it, and I'll go look up the electrical characteristics, and we can chat about that at next week's live stream, and I can tell you exactly how much juice you're going to need to run it. Again, like I was telling Crystal, with that 2 day no sun window that you're trying to accommodate. Okay, that's a great question. Food porn chef must have went and looked at my channel, or looked at my store. The kosher salt is for super scrubbing your black or gray tanks, mostly your black tank. And to super scrub, which I recommend sometimes to people who have a really bad problem with the poo pyramid, you take, and I tell people, you put 2 to 3 gallons of water in your holding tank, uh, add at least 20 pounds of ice, and then a couple cups of Morton's kosher salt. Or water softener salt works as well, but you want coarse salt. You don't want table salt. You want coarse salt. And that salt mixes with the ice. It does a couple things. One, it slows down the ice melt, right? So it keeps it from melting so fast. But two, it acts like a scrub pad. And as you're driving around in that solution, scrubbing the bottoms, and it'll slosh up the sides of the walls of the tank to a certain extent. Then it'll help scrub that out while that ice melts. So that's what the kosher salt's for. Oh, you're part time, no other damage apparent. Well, if you're part time, and you're concerned about it, I would definitely get it repaired. And I would recommend that you probably end up going to your favorite RV repair shop, whatever that might be, or you might call a couple body shops, because sometimes body shops will do them, particularly if it's like on the exterior, like you're talking about. It sounds like a relatively straightforward fix. And working with fiberglass isn't that hard. You just want to make sure you get all of the soft spot out before you try to work on it. I've actually done a little bit of fiberglass work on one of my basement doors on my RV. It turned out okay. Thank you, Aaron, for the reminder of folks. Randy, excellent. Okay, so the GE, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And it's a direct replacement for a DM2852. That is so handy. I have been promising for a couple weeks. One of the regular channel watchers, he's not here tonight, has been asking about the 12-volt fridges, and I promised to get that information for him from you. Oh, just a new install. Okay, Tom. Larry, it's probably not all that hard. Um, you're probably looking at, a half a day. Uh, you know, um, and are the airbags inside the springs? Because that could make it a little bit harder. But if their airbags are just mounted, like with a plate on the top of the axle and another plate on the bottom of the frame, yeah, I think it probably wouldn't be too tough. But if they're inside the springs, that's a sucky job because you're gonna have to take that spring out to get the airbag out. But yeah, I know guys that have changed the airbags on their Class A's, and they report it's a huge pain, but it saves a lot of money. That's for sure. Yeah, thanks, Aaron, for that reminder. Okay, question: is it worth repairing, or should I just duct tape it and call it good? What's your personal standard? If you don't mind having it duct taped, you could find colored duct tape at Home Depot. You could probably match the color and just duct tape it with that. And as long as it's not leaking into a compartment anywhere, I wouldn't worry about it, to be honest with you. Tom comes back. Tom again has been having trouble with his system, his Victron system being connected, staying connected. We're cheaper out with the meter we're now installing because Coach has a separate system. Oh, okay, so yeah, Tom and I have been chatting. I think it was on last week's live stream. He had asked a question about his chassis batteries and that they were running down on him, and so I think that's a response to that. In that, he's having trouble with his chassis battery running down, and we were chatting about some solutions as to how to charge those chassis batteries. And remarkably, just by the by, he mentioned that he has a 1 amp draw off his chassis batteries, which was running, I think, his smoke detector, his LP detector, or something like that, and probably a couple other little minor things. But 1 amp in 24 hours is 24 amp hours, and the typical single 12-volt car battery, which is really what his chassis batteries are, right? Not his house batteries, but his chassis batteries, are 40 to 48 amp hours. They're not built for deep storage like our deep cycle batteries are. They're built to give you a fast push of juice to get that car started or rig or whatever it is. So 24 amp hours is half the capacity of say a Group 24 battery um, when you're talking about car batteries. So yeah, it's important to keep those batteries topped up. Okay. Okay, so Tom says my smart shunt does voltage on my phone. Now want a separate meter. Gotcha. Nature Girl, thank you for your very kind comment. Yes, that is magic that I'm happy to share with you. It makes camping nice. Okay, Tina Leo, hi. You're new to the channel and a new commenter. Thank you so much for your question. She says, new to RVing, is the pump supposed to run off and on while running the water? When running water slow, it turns on and off. When fully open, pump runs nonstop. Is that normal? Yes. Yeah, that's totally normal. Not a problem at all. Uh, your pump probably only going to give you about 2 to 2.5, maybe 3 gallons a minute, and a fully open faucet is going to run about that. So yeah, it's going to be totally fine if it's going to run full blast while, let's say, you're taking a shower and it's going to run all the time. Um, or when you're running the sink, when you're filling your sink to do the dishes, yeah, it'll probably, and the water faucet's wide open. And then when it's throttled down and you're only running a trickle, it'll cycle on and off. That's exactly how they're supposed to operate. That's exactly how they're supposed to operate. So no issues there at all, Tina. Sounds good. Yes. Dinosaur board will rock my world. Look at that for your icebox, okay? Ted Cuff asks, my Dometic AC fan runs continuously even after the compressor shuts off. Can that be changed? That's not normal. Um, it sounds to me like you probably have a thermocouple or something that's probably not working correctly. And it's probably dragging your batteries down if that fan's running, because fans can use a lot of juice. But it's not normal, and I unclear. It would be worth getting it looked at, because there's something wonky there. That fan should not run all the time. Hi, Tim. Oh, Tim bought the Watchdog Power Surge Protector. Best one I've ever seen. I've heard good about those. Yes, I don't have any first-hand experience with them. Two feathers. Oh, thank you so much. Your super chat is greatly, greatly appreciated. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Two feathers says thank you. I was thinking the same. Got to cover that neon blue tape with white. Yep. Oh, that's a good point, Randy. Um, Randy says, Ted, look at your thermostat. You might need to switch the fan control from on to auto. Oh, and then Aaron had some advice there for Tim. Great. Ivan Josie, do I recommend a specific configuration for the electrical upgrade? You mentioned the Battleborn batteries. How about the inverter? Do you recommend hybrid? Does it matter? Well, yes. I recommend Victron. I think they have the best gear. Um, you'll find some that's a little less expensive, like from Lion Energy and some of those. But I think the Victron represents a great investment, and I know that we have at least two people in the chat tonight, Andrew and Tom, who both have Victron gear, and they both love it. So I think the Victron inverter charger is the way to go. The Victron battery monitoring system, the BMV 712, is a must-have, because that's going to tell you how much juice has come and gone out of those batteries, which is really important to know. And that's it. You know, that would be the rig. I would go. I would start with two Battleborns and a 2,000 watt Victron inverter charger, and then the Victron BMV 712 battery monitor. And you should be in Fat City. You'll be happy with it. Yeah, and I get that. Food Porn Chef says only run the water pump when not connected to city water. Yeah, that's there's a I I had to okay. I was in a place one time where the water pressure was really super low, and my tankless shower, if I have one complaint about it, is low flow rates don't make it happy. So when you don't have a lot of water pressure, like coming in from the city line, it would sputter. It would turn on and off because it wouldn't know the water was running properly. In that particular case, I boosted the water pressure just by turning on my water pump. And but normally, no, you don't need to run your water pump if you're on the city water. Oh, Tom says they're not car batteries; they're huge. Yeah, I get what you're saying. They're still going to be batteries built to provide cold cranking amps, not deep cycle storage like a typical RV house battery. At least I wouldn't think they would be on your chassis. That's your starter batteries, Tom. What can you do if you have soft spots in the RV floor? Yeah, you can brace them from below. I'm assuming that you can get underneath it and get to it and slide some plywood in and screw it into the framing that's underneath that floor. That's about your only option, other than lifting the floor and replacing that plywood in that particular section. That can be done as well. Are there okay? So Ivan Josie asks, are there some indicators I should be aware of when the water pump is going to fail? We can clearly hear it when it's on. Should we have a spare? Um, yeah, depends on how far from humanity you'd like to camp. You can typically find a water pump for an RV in about any RV parts store and in any city of any size that has any kind of an RV repair shop or parts store. You're going to be able to find a water pump. So I don't think that would be too big a problem. They don't take up a lot of space. Um, the thing to keep in mind is on your water pump, yeah, it's really hard to predict when they're going to fail. Um, I do remember when mine failed. This has been a while ago. I noticed that when I was on 12 volts and I'd like have the lights on that were on my house battery, so I was running on pure 12 volts. When the water pump would turn on and off, the lights would flicker a little bit, like the water pump was pulling a lot of juice. And it wasn't about a couple months after I noticed that that pump failed. But I would say you don't need to carry a spare. I think if you're close enough to a major town, a city with an RV shop, either RV sales or RV sales and service, you're going to be able to get a pump just about any town. And they're all about the same. The SureFlow 2 gallons probably the most common. Um, so yeah, I don't know if you would really need to carry a spare. Okay, so got a good discussion going there with Randy and Ted. Excellent. Yeah, very easy to install. Good point, Tom, on the Victron. They have really good videos explaining everything. Tom Downey, yes, sell it. It's a huge job. That brings up another question. Yes, G. Davis. What's the maximum water pressure you should put into RVs? Under 60 psi. All right. I have a water pressure regulator widget with a meter on it. Um, let's do a cheap selfish plug here and say it's in my Amazon store. And if you'd like to purchase one through Amazon, I'll get a very small commission, and you'll pay exactly the same price. But it's a water pressure regulator, and I use 45. That's the top end I run through mine. But 60 is the typical design pressure, but 45 is more than enough. Okay, so Mick the dog comes in. He says, I'm not sure you remember, but I was having issues with air conditioner. Yes, I do remember. Replace the capacitors, still a no-go. Then I found a fried control board, replaced it for 80 bucks, and voila, working. Yeah, good. Well, at least you got up in there and you figured it out, and you got new caps out of it. So awesome. I'm glad to hear that, Mick, that you got it fixed. Thank you, Aaron, for your support. It is greatly appreciated. I was kind of secretly hoping that I was going to make it to your little rendezvous this weekend, but it's not going to happen. Um, okay, let's. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. We're 9:15, 9:18, and I'm a little congested here, so I think we'll call her good for tonight. I appreciate all the super chat. You guys, the love is greatly appreciated. Your questions, as always, are greatly appreciated. I hope I helped you at least get started in the right direction. Always happy to continue the discussion on email at trbowling.com. I may like do with you like I did with Crystal and bring a portion of your discussion into the live stream for the night because I think it made for a great discussion. And I thank Crystal. I thank each one of you that did a super chat tonight. Two feathers, and as I scan back here really quick, Timothy and Ivan and Josie, G. Davis is greatly appreciated. Mary, Food Porn Chef, John Carter, you guys are awesome. And of course, our pal Jason Mills. Thank you so much. I'm going to call that good. Again, if you like what you saw, always appreciate that thumbs up. Those are so grateful. I'm so grateful for those. They help break the video up. Your subscribing is also welcomed. Don't forget to ring the notification bell. Visit my website at trbowling.com. Support the channel at amazon.com. And until next week, we'll see you. Peace. Bye bye. Thanks, Robert. Okay, I got one quick question, and I'll see if I can answer that just real quick for you, Ivan Josie. Um, yeah, it's really loud. Winnebago Trend is what I don't do. You know if there are any quieter ACs. The penguins from Dometic are actually pretty good. They're pretty quiet. If I was going to be looking for one to replace, I think that's what I would go for is the Dometic. Um, I've had really good luck with mine. Andrew, see you, bud. Larry, Timothy, you guys are awesome. Tom, Nature Girl, good night. We'll see you guys soon. Bye bye.